think about something, like, you know, think that, hey, maybe I am turning into a zombie.
Some of the really hardcore people, you know, kind of thought, you know, that we were kind of like lightweight. And I thought, well, maybe we were lightweight. And then I found this packet of all these reviews from, like, you know, the San Francisco Chronicle and the New York Rocker and Melody Maker and New Musical Express. And all these things were saying, like, we were, if not one of the best bands, the best band on the West Coast. I'm thinking, well, we couldn't have sucked that badly.
Audience, be advised, performance by music in the vicinity of Marathon and Gillis Avenue.
There was this thing there called Punk Magazine, run by Howie Klein, who later ran Arista Records. And there was a Punk of the Month every month. It was a cute girl, and Amy very much wanted to be Punk of the Month. So I took a shot of her with a Dan Electro, and brought it down there and met Howie. And that sort of segued into me starting to work for that magazine, and us going to see Blondie play for the first time, where I took a photograph of him, which Gary Valentine in his book says the best photo ever taken of Blondie. But of course he was kicked out of the band. Well, actually, like, Punk Magazine ended really soon after that, and sort of simultaneously, I was kind of now in this world. You kind of entered that world full force, and the world enveloped you. And there was a loft party, and there was what became the Avengers there, and there was a bass leaning against an amp, and I'm not really sure what was going on, but somehow I picked up the bass, and by the end of the night I was in the band, and by the end of the week we were playing our first gig, and by the end of the second week we were one of the most popular bands in San Francisco. But the Avengers basically, I either left or got kicked out of the Avengers, and I honestly can't say which. This girl says, you know, I know these guys out in Berkeley, and they really play well. So I went out there, and it was Maury, and he was an incredible musician, really, you know, could play anything. And Wayne, who was playing rhythm guitar at the time and singing, really, really good-looking guy, really great voice. They had this incredible harmonic blend, which the Avengers, you know, didn't have at all. And came to Readymades, and we started looking for a guitar player, and they know this guy Ricky playing in a salsa band right now. So he comes to our rehearsal space from after playing with the salsa band, and he's wearing like a green suit made out of some sort of reflective substance with lapels that go past his shoulders. And, you know, right away we're in. We filled this slot that was kind of like missing, which was the, you know, kind of the Talking Heads Blondie television kind of, for, I think we opened for the Dead Boys. It was like almost like our next show, and almost our next show was opening for Nico, and right away we had this following, because again there was this hole between, you know, being incredibly angry and that kind of fake political that Americans are, since we're not really that hungry or poor. I mean, there are people in America that are that hungry and poor, but none of them were in San Francisco playing in punk rock bands at the time. And a lot of bands were coming through, and they were kind of like Blondie. We would play with them, and if they were kind of like the Sex Pistols, the Avengers would play with them, and if they were kind of like somewhere like they were the Ramones, the Nuns would play with them, and it kind of went like that. And we also were the only independent band ever to have a record which was Electric Toys in regular cycle on KSAN, which was a major radio station in San Francisco. It was just played regularly, just like records from record companies. And John Cale hears our single and he says, "I'll make a record for you." And that's pretty great, and he says, "I can't give you any money, but I'll fly you guys to New York, make a record album." But then the monkey wrench gets thrown in the works for us with Sandy Pearlman, who manages the Dictators, but also manages Blue Oyster Cult, and also manages the Black Sabbath without Ozzy Osbourne, and a couple of other bands, and is deeply invested in CBS and has the publishing company and the booking company and all that kind of stuff. And Sandy wants to handle us. And he's like, comes and sits down with us, and we're just dumbass kids, and he says, "I'll get you guys $500,000. And we go, $500,000 sounds good. We decide, and this is one of those things, if you ever play that game, if I could go back and change one thing, this might be the one thing in my life I would change, which was do the record with John Cale, for Christ's sake. Go to New York, do the record with John Cale. So we don't make the record. In fact, we never make another record because we spend the rest of our time doing demo tapes for major record companies. We're always on the verge of a record contract for the band lasts another 2 years. And time passes, and we get to this age of MySpace. And I noticed that all these people are showing up on MySpace and getting certain respect, and even bands, I won't go slag people, but relatively minor bands that really didn't write or play that well are kind of like getting this certain amount of credibility and respect, and we're never mentioned, and I have to, and I'm thinking, why? And part of it is because we never put out records. We were always making demo tapes, and there wasn't that evidence. There was no evidence of our... And so, I went and started digging up what I could of, these really crappy tapes we had, because all those good things were recorded with Pearlman and stuff, we can't have access to. There's no access to them. And I thought, well, hey, I'm going to at least put up a MySpace page. Because, just because it was... I don't know, just because my feelings were hurt. I don't know. And so I get an email from Rave Up Records, which is a record company that reissues, and they're based in Rome, and they reissue stuff from the 70s. And they go, I'm getting lots of stuff basically saying, where are your records? How can we get your records? And I'm writing back to people saying, we don't have any records. And Rave Up, does the thing too, and I go, we don't have any records, and Rave Up goes, well, can we do your record? And I go, well, yeah, if I can find, and it came in, and it doesn't suck, is the best thing I can say about it. It doesn't suck. I'm not going to go around and start a record company. I just wanted people to remember that we used to be one of the best bands on the West Coast. I'm looking for people to play with. I need musicians that want to play with me. I got songs. I want to play now, and I don't want to sell something I did 20 years ago.